Believe it or not, but you can go from these ugly corms to these beautiful flowers in 4 steps. So the first step in planting ranunculus is to pre-soak your corms. Right now I'm just filling up a bowl with room temperature water, and I'm going to be soaking corms, which are the little octopus-like tubers that ranunculus grow from. As you can see, these are completely dried out, and so in order to get them rehydrated and to increase in size, you soak them in room temperature water. I'm going to soak these guys for about 3 to 4 hours, and intermittently, I'm going to come back and give them fresh water. That's important. An important step is to change out their water every 30 minutes or so. You also have the option of letting your faucet run on a slow trickle if you don't want to come back and have to change the water. As you soak, you also want to make sure that you do not over soak your ranunculus because if they are over soaked, they will rot. It's important to keep an eye on them and make sure that you're not leaving them in the water for longer than about 3 or 4 hours. So this is about the 6th time that I am changing out the water, and the ranunculus are looking pretty good to me. So this will be the last time that I'm dumping out the water. As you can see, the ranunculus have doubled in size. They look hydrated yet still firm, and each individual corm looks like an octopus. This is a good sign. These guys are ready for pre-sprouting. The second step in planting ranunculus is to pre-sprout your corms. Here I have a bucket of pre-moistened potting soil. You can also use a seed tray. It's actually much easier if you do, but if you have a bucket, that's completely fine. What we're going to do is place the ranuncular corms tentacles side down into the pre-moistened soil. We're just going to spread them out evenly throughout the container, and then we're going to cover them completely with the soil. You really don't need to cover them much, just enough for them to not be seen, about an inch of soil. And then, after they're completely covered, we will leave these ranunculus to pre-sprout. This will take about 10 to 14 days. I left mine for about 2 weeks. And we want to make sure to leave our ranunculus somewhere where the temperature is cool, about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. For me, because I did this in fall, it was perfect to leave them outside under my porch. And so that is what I did. Here, because I'm leaving them outside, you're going to see I'm putting in some peony cage tops just to prevent any critters from getting into the container because critters will eat your corms if you give them the opportunity. So here we are, it's 2 weeks later, and now I just want to check on the status of my corms. As you can see, these corms have lots of white roots. A few of them even have some green shoots coming up from the top of the corn. Those are really good signs. It means that the pre-sprouting worked well. The corms were able to develop roots relatively quickly, which will aid them when they go into their planting site. So here are some closer shots of those corms where you can see the white roots much clearer. These are the good signs that let you know your pre-sprouting went well. You can also discard any rotten corms. Rotten corms generally mean that your soil was too wet. During the pre-sprouting phase, your soil should be moist but not soggy. So now I'm just rooting around in this huge bucket to make sure I got all the corms. If you used a seed tray, you can completely skip this step. You should be able to see your corms right away. But because I used a bucket, I'm putting in the work now to make sure that all of my corms are uncovered. The third step in planting ranunculus is to prepare your planting site. I'm going to be planting my ranunculus on top of this retaining wall in front of an arborvitae hedge. So this soil was used for annuals, so I'm not so sure it's very nutrient rich, To make sure the ranunculus have what they need, I'm going to be adding in compost to the soil here. In addition to the compost, I'm also going to go in with some granular, slow release organic fertilizer. That's going to make sure that these ranuncula have what they need to make it through the winter, into the spring, and to provide those beautiful flowers that I'm after. The final stage in the process is to plant the ranuncular corms. I initially placed my corms into a straight line across the planting bed. However, on second thought, I thought it looked better with them staggered. Now that I have them in the right place, I can go in with my hand trowel, work the amendments into the soil slightly, and plant the corms. As a general rule, you want to plant your corms about 2 to 3 inches deep and to make sure that they are spaced at least 9 inches apart. Also, make sure to plant your ranunculus with the tentacles facing down. As I mentioned earlier, in this video, I'm trying out a fall planting of ranunculus. These ranunculus are from a spring planting that I attempted this year. And while I did have good plants, unfortunately, I planted them way too late in the season for flowering. Ranunculus plants like cool weather, and so I planted these in April, and by the time they were up and running and strong and ready to flower, it was already getting really warm in late May and June, and so they simply cannot flower in those warm temperatures. And so I figured, let me save these corms and try again in the fall. Because I'm in zone 7A, I can attempt a fall planting with minimal effort. I will have to get a frost cloth or some other winter protection on these guys if the temperatures go below 25 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's doable in my zone. And because these corms are planted in the fall, I can expect flowering in early spring, which will continue throughout spring. Thanks for watching. I'll provide an update on these ranunculus come spring. Take care.